What I really think is important is to look at the really long-term perspective. I will put it this way. In some ways, there is a particular century which is absolutely crucial in the whole of human history. That's the century which runs from 1945 to 2045. We're about two-thirds of the way through. It's in that period that we actually either learn to live with our ability to destroy ourselves, or we do unparalleled damage to ourselves and possibly the whole planet. We've been developing as humans in society for the best part of 10,000 years, since we started to live in small towns, since we started to learn how to farm. We've been developing as an intelligent species for millions of years, right back to when we actually learned how to make tools. But in a sense, it's all come to the point in the last 100 years where our ability to destroy ourselves and destroy the planet seems to be running ahead of our wisdom to control our own abilities. And it seems to me that it is this century, from 1945 to 2045, in which we had to learn to do it. The obvious reason for picking 1945 is that was when nuclear weapons were first tested and used in war. And that ushered in a unique new era of potential destructiveness. Over the past 60 years or so, we've been very lucky. We've not destroyed ourselves. We came very close. Cuba Missile Crisis, Able Archer, other examples, probably some not even in the public domain yet. But we managed to escape the sheer stupid potential destructiveness of the Cold War without it going hot. More by luck than judgment. We got out of it through luck. It was not that nuclear weapons kept the peace. They postponed any kind of genuine peace. We now are facing probably other technologies, biological weapons, genetic engineering developments, which could be as destructive. And we have overhanging all of us the risk of actually destroying our entire climate. But if we concentrate on the nuclear issue, which is the one which is of immediate concern, again, I would put it this way. At the height of the Cold War, 25 or so years ago, it was rather like we were looking over the edge of a precipice, over the abyss, and there was some small risk that we tipped over. If we had tipped over, the results would have been utterly devastating. Now it's more of a slippery slope. The slippery slope towards a slowly nuclearizing world. India, Pakistan, Israel, North Korea, possibility of Iran, which could lead on to Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. While at the same time, the existing major nuclear powers may have scaled things down, but they are not giving up on the need to maintain nuclear weapons. In some ways, that's more difficult to argue about. At the height of the Cold War, people knew there was this real, absolute danger. This is why it's the slippery slope and so much more difficult. But at the same time, the dangers of a sudden all-out global nuclear war have actually diminished. They've not gone away, but they have diminished. So we have the opportunity. And much of it, I think, is going to revolve around the next 3 or 4 years. Next year's review of the Non-proliferation Treaty is very important. The very cautious moves that are being made to get new talks going between the Americans and the Russians. The example in mid-September that Obama may be curtailing the idea of having missile defences in Eastern Europe, which was like a red rag to a bull as far as the Russians are concerned. What are the steps that can be taken? My personal view is there is no way at all in which Britain should really be thinking about replacing Trident. I'd like to see the Trident system scaled down. And then if they do desperately need their nuclear toys, they have far fewer of them at an absolutely basic force, which will probably wither away, and within 20, 30 years they will think, what even is the point? But the real issues are, one has to face it, the superpowers, or at least the very big nuclear powers, and the need to really continuing scaling down more and more by agreement. But in addition to that, you have inevitably to focus on the Middle East, because there is the risk that Israel is a powerful but very fearful nuclear-armed country, a country which is best described as being impregnable in its insecurity. Israel has at some times got to come to terms with where it is and to make a lasting peace with the Palestinians and the Arabs. If that could happen, then it would be possible to put far greater pressure on other states like Iran not to go down the nuclear route. These kinds of states do it, partly because of fear of their own position, partly about a yearning for status. And that really has to be turned round. There are a huge set of tasks there. It's going to be a very important era over the next 4 or 5 years, but it's our best opportunity. We lost out in the late 1940s with the Baruch and Gromyko plans. We lost out after Cuba in the 1960s, Non-proliferation treaty, partial test ban, but nothing more than that. We didn't do enough at the end of the Cold War. Now, in the early 2010s, we have perhaps the last opportunity to actually make real progress towards a nuclear-free world. And it's an opportunity we just cannot afford to miss.